Welcome back to the Sunny Stampin' Studio. In today's video I'm going to show you how to make this card, including how to watercolor these pumpkins on Stampin' Up's watercolor paper using an aqua painter and re-inkers. Why don't we get started? First thing you're going to need is a piece of Stampin' Up's watercolor paper, and you're going to need to stamp your pumpkins on it. Now these are from the Autumn Harvest stamp set, and I stamped them in jet black StazOn ink. Next thing you're going to need are your re-inkers, and this is Pumpkin Pie and Old Olive. I need my aqua painter, which already has water in the barrel, and a little palette which I got from the dollar store. Now you're going to want to put a drop of the Pumpkin Pie and a drop of the Old Olive. And then once you're done that, you can set your re-inkers aside. Now your brush you want to use to pick up a little bit of the ink. So you can see the orange ink there. Okay. Once you've done that, you just start washing the color over your paper. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see a little bit better and just move my palette out of the way. One of the things you'll notice when you're working with the watercolor, this kind of watercoloring technique using the aqua painter, is the intensity of your color is going to be affected by how much water is on your aqua painter. Now, one of the reasons I love this technique is because it makes absolutely anybody look like an artist, even if you have no painting experience whatsoever. Because you're working on watercolor paper, this is a 140-pound watercolor paper. It has a high capacity to absorb water, so you can just keep working your image until it looks exactly the way you want it to look, and you're not going to get the piling of paper that you would if you were working with regular cardstock. So you see how the color, rather than just seeping really quickly into the paper, the way it just kind of moves along the paper. Now here I dipped directly into the re-inker rather than diluting it with a little water from the tip of my pen. So you see this, how I can just keep going, and the water and the color of the pumpkin just lightens as I go along. So I'm just going to rotate this so that I can work on the other side of the pumpkin. So I've taken quite a bit of the re-inker on the tip of my pen, and I'm now going to pull it from the sides to the middle. Now when you do that, when you keep it kind of darker on the sides and lighter in the center, what that does is that it creates a bit of an illusion of dimension to the pumpkin. It's like the outsides of the shadow, and that's the rounded part that's sticking out. So once you have your pumpkin colored the way you want it, you want to clean off the orange, and you can just use a scrap tissue, paper towel. You can even do it right on your grid paper. And then you're going to pick up a little bit of green. Now, I don't want quite as much green, so you can see I'm squishing my pen to get a little bit of water out so that my green is very faint. You can see that. And there you go. So your pumpkins are done. So you can now set your aqua painter and palette aside, and then you're going to want to set these aside to dry. So I'm just going to go ahead and zoom back out again a little bit. Now, while those are drying, I'm going to take my Pumpkin Pie card front, and I'm going to take my sanded background stamp and Versamark ink. And what you want to do is to cover the entire surface of the sanded background stamp with your Versamark. I love these background stamps because I find that they give a really nice texture to the card. So the way I do mine, and there's different ways you can do it, I like to lay my card directly onto the stamp, carefully hold it in place as I flip it, and then turn it onto the table and just press down. There you can see the texture on there. Next thing you're going to do is grab a Pumpkin Pie ink pad and a stamping sponge. Starting off the cardstock, I'm just going to sponge some color around the edges of the card. My sister Soph has really gotten me hooked on sponging. I just absolutely love the extra depth and dimension that it gives to your projects. So I've just done some faint sponging around the edges of my card. Now what you're going to want to do is grab yourself your imaging sheet from your Stamp-A-Majig. I've gone ahead and already set it up with the Happy Halloween greeting, and this is from the House of Haunt stamp set. I'm going to put my T-tool, my Stamp-A-Majig, against my imaging sheet. And then I'm going to ink up my Happy Halloween greeting on basic black classic ink. So you can see I have that on my card front. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. By this point, my pumpkins would be dry. Actually, not quite. So it's a good thing I have a backup here. And what you're going to do is you're going to grab the face of the pumpkin, and this is again from the Autumn Harvest stamp set. And I'm going to ink it up in basic black ink, and I'm just going to stamp it onto my pumpkin. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and cut your pumpkins out. As you can see, to save time, I've gone ahead and done that. Now you're also going to need the Swirl Scribbles die from the Big Shot, and I cut it out in Old Olive Classic ink. You're going to need some vintage brads, paper piercing tool, and foam mat. Now I have a piece of designer paper from the Day and Night designer paper that's in Stampin' Up's Holiday Mini Catalog, and this is a 3 by 3.5 inch piece, and I'm just going to center and stick this to a 3 1/4 by 3 3/4 inch piece. You're now going to lay it onto a foam mat, and you just want to pierce a hole in the top 2 corners. Once you've done that, you can grab a black brad and insert it into each hole and open up the prongs on the back. There we go. If you find as you're trying to open your prongs of your brad on the back of your cardstock, if it's giving you a little bit of hassle opening up because they're stuck together, you can always use your paper piercing tool to help open them up. So I'm going to move my foam mat away, and I'm now going to take my pumpkins. So on the back of the first one, I'm going to take this Tombow Mono Multi-Liquid Glue, and I want my swirl to be coming on this side. So I'm going to put just a tiny little bit of glue in the back, and I'm going to stick this small swirl to the glue on the back, like so. I'm then going to take my pumpkin, the smaller one, and I want to stick this one to the back of that, this swirl. I'm just going to place some of this Tombow glue to the back of the pumpkin, and there you can see I've gone ahead and stuck. And you can see where I've stuck the die to that, and I'm just going to let that dry for 1 second. Grab your big pumpkin, flip it over, and you're going to need to grab some Stampin' Dimensionals. Oops, I think I just knocked into the table there while I was reaching for those. So you're going to place Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of that. Just remove the backing. Don't need that. Stick that onto your card, and then you can do the same with your pumpkin. And you just stick that, and you want it to slightly overlap that pumpkin. So now, just grab your snail adhesive again. And actually, you know what? I'm not going to use snail adhesive. I love using dimensionals because I just find that I love the dimension it adds. So I think instead, I'm going to put dimensionals in the back of this. You just peel the back off your dimensionals. And then center your piece to your card front. And there you have it. A fast, fun technique, and you can create gorgeous Halloween cards.